This is a public information meeting for Electoral Area C for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for the property at 479 Johnson Crescent. Just a bit about what a public information meeting entails. It is informal in nature, so we don't have any formal minutes. But as I mentioned, the meeting will be recorded. If there are any comments that you want to submit to the Regional District Board for their review at first and second reading, you should be submitting these in writing, either by email or through a feedback form. So I am here to answer any questions as well as the applicant, Diane. If we're not able to answer all the questions tonight, please just follow up with me and I'll leave my contact information at the end. So with how to use Webex, just in case anyone else has hopped on the line, we do take questions in turn. So to indicate that you want to speak, if you're using your computer, just click the participants button at the bottom right corner of the screen and hover your mouse over your name and just click the raise hand button. If you're joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand, and you will be unmuted when it's your turn to speak, and we'll just let you know that you've been unmuted. But once you're done, just click the raise hand button or *3 to take your hand down. So this application was submitted to us on May 24th, 2022. The agency referrals for this included Interior Health Authority, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Willowbrook Volunteer Fire Department, as well as other agencies as well. Those were sent out on June 6, 2022. Tonight is a night for the public information meeting. However, after tonight, we will be bringing this application to the Advisory Planning Commission meeting on July 19th. The Regional District Board consideration date is set at August 4th, 2022 for first and second reading. And if that is approved by the board, a public hearing and third reading and adoption of the bylaw by the board would be scheduled for after that, tentatively September 4th. So just a bit about the proposal. As mentioned before, the location of this property is 479 Johnson Crescent. The official community plan designation of the property is small holdings, and the property is currently zoned small holdings 3. The parcel is 0.97 hectares in size, and it is noted that the property owner currently has 4 mini horses, two horses, 1 goat, and 1 mini donkey. So with respect to the relevant zoning provisions that apply to this application, as I mentioned before, the zoning of the property is small holdings 3, which allows for principal uses such as single detached dwelling. Agriculture is actually a secondary permitted use on this property, so just a minor correction on that slide. And there's also a provision in the zoning bylaw that speaks to the keeping of livestock. So just diving a bit into the definition of agriculture, this means the use of land, buildings, or structures for growing, harvesting, packing, storing, and wholesaling of agricultural crops for the purposes of providing food, horticultural, medicinal, or farm products. And that includes producing and rearing animals and range grazing of horses, cattle, sheep, and other livestock, etc. So in this case, based on the information that's been provided to us as part of the application, the applicant has described the livestock-related use of the land as an animal sanctuary for geriatric and special needs livestock, which the applicant has considered to be pets. So given the nature of the livestock-related uses, then they're not seen to be captured under the definition of agriculture, which is why they're actually held to the limitations on the number of livestock that are permitted on the property under Section 6.6. So as mentioned before, this does relate to keeping of livestock, and in particular, Section 6.6 allows for livestock, small livestock, and honeybee hives to be kept on parcels where single detached dwellings are permitted. And this is really all based on the size of the parcel. So just to be really clear, the definition of livestock includes horses, cattle, sheep, swine, llamas, ratites, goats, farmed game, and other similar animals. So when you're looking at this table, as I mentioned before, the property is 0.97 hectares in size. So with that in mind, the property owner is only permitted 2 livestock on the property. Currently, she has 8. And as I mentioned before, the limits on livestock numbers are not applied to cases where the livestock-related use of land is captured under the definition of agriculture. So just given the nature, as I mentioned before, of the livestock-related use, this limitation does apply, which is why the proposed amendment in this case would be to amend the Okanagan Valley zoning bylaw to rezone the property from small holdings 3 to small holdings 3 site specific in order to allow the property owner to be able to keep 8 livestock on the property instead of 2. So I'm just moving on now to some of the submitted pictures and supplementary information. So the applicant did provide a sketch of the property, just showing the general layout where the animals are using pasture on the property, as well as some of the other existing buildings and structures, including the house, garage, as well as a barn with 2 horse shelters on either side. And these photos here are just the pasture areas that are shown in the southwestern portion of the property. And these ones are the pasture areas that are located towards the rear of the property, showing some of the fenced off area as well. And then this photo here shows pasture area in the western portion of the property. Couple photos of the barn and horse shelters. Just a couple more here as well. And then aside from that, I will just have my contact information up just in case anyone has any questions that we're not able to discuss tonight. But with that in mind, I will just go ahead and pass this over to Diane just to see if she has any additional comments that she wants to add with respect to her application. Thank you. Diane, you are unmuted now from our end if you have any additional information to add.
Yeah. Okay. Before I begin, how many people are in the meeting?
We've just got 2 attendees.
Okay. Thank you. No, I don't have anything additional to add.
All right. Thank you. So with that, then we'll just go ahead and move into the question and answer portion of the meeting. And I do see one hand up. I believe that's Richard. Richard, go ahead. I've unmuted you.
I just had some questions, starting with the housekeeping, maybe for the for RDWS, like on the application. There was a couple of errors on there that I noticed in the application, which was the stating about the community sewer. That was one of them. That the applicant is on community sewer. We're septic there.
Yes, and these application forms, they are sometimes filled out by the applicant, sometimes filled out by us, but I can confirm, yes, this is a septic system.
And then, and also, there's a portion of the application that you can fill out that the land is an environmental sensitive area. That's not checked off, and I don't see that in the administrative report either.
So it is in the Advisory Planning Commission report, and it will be carried forward into the administrative reports for board consideration as well.
Is that in a report that's open to the public there on the website?
Yes. So the Advisory Planning Commission report's already up on the application webpage, and the note about the environmentally sensitive development permit area is in the background information section.
Background, okay. I'll have to look at that closer. Is that on the 3rd page?
Sorry, I'm just pulling it up now.
I'm going by paper copy because I'm using phone here because I couldn't get onto Webex. Oh, background, that's the 1st page. I see it there. So background goes.
It would be on the 2nd page.
Oh, there
under,
it is.
land use bylaws, yes.
Land use bylaws. Okay, I'll just check that off. Okay, thank you. Now, I was curious. There's 2 options for the application. There was one for a site-specific application, and then also a temporary use permit. And I was just curious on the decision. What was the decision to do the zoning specific would be, and then I have some questions following that.
For sure. So just from a planning department perspective, any property owner does have the ability to apply either for a permanent rezoning or for a temporary use permit. It really just depends on the circumstances of their particular situation. So they would have the discretion then to make that decision to go either way. But I will pass this over to Diane just in case she has any comments with respect to that question.
Okay.
No, I have no comment. I don't know if you can hear me, Shannon, but I said I have no comment.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Richard,
Okay.
do you have any other follow-up questions?
Well, not for that question because there's no comment. Okay, so if it's not considered this is to you, Shannon, actually. If it's not considered agricultural, and it's like the animals are considered pets, they would still have to abide by the subject to the Environmental Management Act, though, with contained livestock. So that has to do with manure mitigation and all that stuff that goes along. So do you see that changing at all with changing the zoning? I know that the TUP is easier to monitor because it's on it's not a permanent zoning change.
Well, the case of the Environmental Management Act, so that's regulated, I believe, by the Ministry of Environment. So that's a separate jurisdiction from ours. Unfortunately, from our perspective in the planning department here, the livestock management and manure management specifically, that's not really a land use matter that we're really able to consider from a technical standpoint as planners. That is really more so something that we would have to defer to the Ministry of Environment to respond to. And I would just have to reach out to them to see what their perspective is.
Yeah, because I noticed that they were, the follow-up question for that is that I noticed they were contacted for response to the application. Have they at all responded at all to that?
I don't believe it was referred out to the Ministry of Environment. I have to double check what our protocol normally is for referring out to the Ministry of Environment, as not all provincial ministries do respond to or take referrals like this. I did refer this out to the Ministry of, I guess, what used to be Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations, given that there is an environmentally sensitive development permit area across a majority of the property, and they have not responded to me.
Okay. So do you have to wait for the response, or can you carry on?
No, we don't necessarily have to wait for a response. We could carry on. In some cases, depending on the agency that we're referring out to and how that would really impact our administrative recommendation, we may choose to wait prior to bringing it to the board for first and second reading, though.
Okay. Okay, then I do have a question. I do have a question for the applicant, sir. The question is, with the amount of animals, what is in place for manure mitigation for them?
It's actually being taken away to a farm that uses it in their, they use it in their nursery. Sorry. I'm obviously very nervous and upset that this is going on, so it's a little hard for me to think right now. So anyway, it gets taken away and it gets taken to a nursery. That's what the plan will be.
Sorry, did you say the plan will be or is right now?
Well, I didn't know that was in place. I didn't know that was a requirement. Everyone here just keeps it on their own land. So if you're saying right now that that's something I have to do, I already have a place that I can take it. But there's no one here that they stack it on their own land. And I have a lot of land at the top of the hill. That's another, that's what most people are doing here, or they're spreading it on their own land.
Okay. I just have one more question at the moment. It's for the applicant also. Now there's a lot of reference to geriatric sanctuary here, and what are the ages of the animals there?
Of all of them?
The 8, yeah.
Okay. Smokey is 33. Lulu is 23. The goat is 14. 11. Pudge, Fiona, and Willow, I would have to look up their specific ages, but they were all over 15 when I got them. And Macy is 8 or 9.
Okay. Okay, so the pasture. I have another question here, just because I'm looking at the site plan right now, the drawn out site plan, and I see a lot of pasture marked out. I'm just trying to figure out where other stuff is that could be compromised by horses and stuff. Where's the septic field on that property?
Where's the what?
The septic field.
It's under my bathroom.
No, it would be outside.
Yes, under my bathroom. You know what, Richard? You were so in, oh, this is the best thing ever, la, 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 until there was a problem. Why are you even asking me these questions? You know what? Do whatever you have to do to get me out of here. That's fine. But I'm not answering these ridiculous questions anymore. You're the only one who's done all this. And you know what? You were so, oh, Diane, you're the best. Take care of these animals, blah, blah, blah. And now this, all over that silly business. You know what? I have no more comments.
Can I
just
comment to this?
I'm just going to pop
now.
in here.
I'm hanging up. You know what? Richard wants to fight this battle. He can ask you the questions. Shannon, you can email me. I can't do this anymore. I am losing my mind. Okay, Richard? You win.
Oh, boy, okay.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to explain why I'm asking that question about the septic. It has to do with compaction from heavy horses, and septic fields are not supposed to be walked on by heavy horses continually. If it's in the pasture, it should be blocked off. I'm just bringing that up. I don't believe she knows where the septic is, and that's fine. And I accept that answer, but I don't actually accept the reaction.
So, just since we have some phone-in users, the applicant is off the line now.
Oh boy.
So, public information meeting is still open currently. I'm happy to answer any other questions, that I can at least answer from the planning department's perspective. So, if for anyone who's popped in after I gave the instructions, it's just *3 to raise your hand, and we'll continue to take any questions in turn.
Well, it's Richard Tom here again. I'm on the phone and I'm finding it hard to communicate without the screen, but I will say, I'm partaking in a public information meeting that has to do with my neighborhood, that I'm a neighbor. I'm a direct neighbor to it, and I didn't expect for that reaction, and I don't know what protocol is with that, but isn't it normally stopped before it just continues like that?
Yeah, so I mean, really the point of these meetings is to have both staff and the applicant ask or answer any questions that come up. And unfortunately, in this case, the applicant does have their own discretion whether or not to come to the meeting or participate. So that's unfortunately like all I can really comment on in that regard. But you know, I would agree that you know,
Yeah.
the exchange could have probably been a little bit better.
Okay. So I could ask some questions just regarding the, because, so agriculture for that property, SH3, is a secondary permitted use, but the applicant doesn't have, so the applicant doesn't have farm status, so it diverts to basically pets or the livestock quota. I understand. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, so it would effectively, because she doesn't meet the agriculture definition, that's what triggers the limitations that are set under the keeping of livestock section of the zoning bylaw. If she had met the agriculture definition, she would not be held to those same limitations. Yeah. So there, I mean, I'd like to express a concern that I have had, and what it is since moving to the area with the 8 and then finding out that the day that she moved in that she was over, since then she's like, I wanted to ask her just to give the information, has she got any more rescues since then? Animals outside or even inside, or say like a dog, you know, like rescues in general. You know, I'm a little concerned with a permanent zoning that would allow the amount, and then what happens if you go over it again? What is the mechanism to use to deter it, or does she just apply for another variance for raising it again? Like, or because with a temporary use permit, which was offered also, I was trying to figure out what the decision, how she came about to the decision of doing the site-specific zoning. Because I haven't seen the OCP. I would like to see the OCP, like the future plans, the growth plans for that area. Well, I know it's not for that, for Area C, and just see how they talk about animal rearing and livestock. And I mean, like the official community plan itself is a public document. You can review that online. I mean, as it relates specifically to the rearing of livestock, I don't recall any specific policies that we have that would speak to that. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, but typically if we have any sort of local policies, they would also be within their own section in the official community plan. And I do not believe that Willowbrook is one of the communities that currently has any local policies.
Wouldn't we fall under like a project, like future growth plan though, over Area C? Is there one for Area C in general?
I mean, there's a growth management section of the official community plan. But on top of that as well, we do have the regional growth strategy, which is currently being reviewed for the South Okanagan. So that would include Electoral Area C along with the other Okanagan Valley zoning bylaws as well.
Page 19 of the OCP is the growth management.
Okay. Another question that I had, I wanted to ask was, since the farm is being referred to as a geriatric sanctuary, a sanctuary is another thing that isn't allowed in the written bylaws as it stands. But is that going to affect any future? Is it going to affect the bylaw in the future of sanctuaries not allowed, or is it just site-specific if it went site-specific with that particular property?
So in this case, with an animal sanctuary, just given the way that this has been described in the application materials, it's more so a personal enjoyment use. There hasn't been any formal correspondence that I've had with the applicant that's indicated that this is a registered nonprofit and that it's being operated as any sort of business. Though a business use for an animal sanctuary wouldn't necessarily be captured under this this proposed amendment.
Okay. Okay, well, I don't really have any other questions. It was more kind of to get a feel from the applicant too, but I was trying to be careful how I asked them, but unfortunately it didn't come across that way, so
Does anyone else have any other questions before we end the meeting for the night?
I don't believe so here, Shannon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, with that, I will go ahead and end the meeting then. But thank you, everyone, for coming. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.